Krishna, takk fyrir að koma, thanks for coming. Það er að tala ensku, mamma.
Já, já, svensk. Ég hlusta bara, er það ekki alveg?
Jú. Þarna hafið þið ekki heyrt, Icelandic. Who here knows something about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Lord Chaitanya? Anyone here who knows about him? Like?
I read the book, but I don't remember anything.
Okay. Diana, still
Not too much.
Not too much.
No.
Okay. So it's
He represents some different kind of love.
different. What do you mean?
Explained.
It's kind.
It will be explained.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot can be said about him, but we can't say too much today because we're gonna have to go through his. Just have to, I want to explain a little bit about his contribution, and I mean, I have this summary of his life written about in 1896 by one of our previous teachers. So our founder of Charya, he actually was born in the year 1986. So in the same year, one of the current teacher of this movement, he wrote a book in English about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his life and his teachings, and he sent this book all over the world to different universities, to different universities around the world, and it happened to be the same year when our Prabhupada was born. So it was, and he also predicted that this person who wrote this book, his name is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He did actually predict that Prabhupada would be born around this time, and he would be the one that would spread this Krishna consciousness all over the world. But this Krishna consciousness going all around the world is actually originally prophesied or predicted or foretold. I'm using 3 different words in case you don't understand one of them or 2 of them. By Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's actually Krishna himself, who was appeared in West Bengal about 500 years ago, in the year 1486, and he appeared specifically to teach the world Krishna Bhakti or Prema Bhakti. This through the medium of this mantra that you can, anyone in this time which we live in now can become Krishna conscious or can become perfectly self-realized simply through this chanting of this holy name of Krishna, especially this Hare Krishna mantra. And he also predicted, this is Bengali, Prithvi yache yata nakar atigram sarvatra prachara hoipe moranam. I think in most Indian languages you can understand this Bengali, but it's old Bengali, so it has like this very Sanskrit. Prithvi means on the planet Earth. Yata nakar atigram. So every town and village of this planet, he didn't say India, he didn't say Bharate or something, he said Prithivite. On this planet, Prithvi is none of the names of Earth is Prithvi. Named after Maharaj Prithu, Prithvi. So Nagaratigram, so wherever you have a town or village in this planet, Sarvatra Prachara Hoipe Maranam. So Sarvatra Prachara, everywhere my Prachara preached. Prachara means preaching. Hoipe Maranam, my name will be preached or heard. So, and this is actually the precise reason why we are sitting here in Iceland. How far away is this from like India? Or it's like this remote corner of the world, very remote corner actually. One of the most remote countries, cities of the world, Reykjavik. So why is this happening? Why are we here today? It's actually because of him. He established this process, promoted this process, and he said this process one day will go all over the world, every city, every town, every city of the world. And so this is why we are here today. So we're hearing about him. So this is why it's a nice occasion to speak about him. So, like I said, to explain a little bit, see, Krishna 5,000 years ago, he spoke this book, Bhagavad Gita, which we have talked about every Sunday. And in this Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is teaching ultimately that surrender to him. That's the conclusion of the Gita. Sarva dharmam parityajya mam ekam saranam raja aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshaishani matru sujaha. He also explained man mana bhavamat bhakto ma jati mam namaskuru mama veshashi satyante pratijani priyosami. So he's saying that the whole point of what he's teaching, Krishna is teaching, is simply surrender to Krishna. And that is done by always thinking of Krishna, always worshipping Krishna, bowing down to Krishna, becoming Krishna's devotee. By that you become, you come to Krishna, you become perfect. So this is the teaching of Krishna in 5,000 years ago. But very few people actually follow Bhagavad Gita in that way. They take Gita and they use it as a treatise on mystic yoga or something. Like you may have heard of, for instance, Yogananda. He uses the Gita very much, but he focuses mainly on the 6th chapter, which talks about how to be a yogi. So he quotes the last verse, Tasmad yogi Pavarjuna, therefore be a yogi, Arjuna. But he doesn't go to the next verse saying that of all yogis, one who always thinks of me becomes in love is the best of all. So I'm giving an example of how Bhagavad Gita is, although it's Krishna is teaching devotion to himself, surrender to himself, love for himself. Most people use the Gita for promoting other teachings, other paths. So therefore, just like a teacher, if you don't understand, like Prabhupada I was just listening today, Prabhupada was explaining how, sometimes a master, a big man, he will have a servant who massages him, and the servant is not massaging him properly, so he will take the servant's arm and see, you massage like this, you will grab his arm and grab it, you squeeze like this, this is how you should massage me. So does that mean that the master is now a servant? No, he's just teaching the servant how to massage him. So similarly, Krishna, he appeared 500 years ago as his own devotee. He explains, so you don't understand how to be a lover of me, how to always think of me, how to surrender to me. So I will personally come and show you by my example. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but he's showing in the mood of his own devotee. He's showing us how to be the greatest devotee, how to be the best devotee, how to chant Hare Krishna, how to be always happy by chanting Hare Krishna. So basically that's what he did. And he also taught a very, very profound philosophy. His philosophy is the most complete explanation of the Vedic literatures. You have various schools within India, within the Vedic society. You have various schools. You have various schools, a good way, how you say. Yeah, various schools that teach. They all base their philosophy on the Veda, but they will explain it a little differently. The goal is a little different, or the way the absolute truth is explained is different. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also gave like the most complete understanding that kind of synchronizes all the different philosophies that are there. Or some people say God is one, some say God is two, some say God is both one and two, and some. So he explains how everything is one and different, inconceivably and simultaneously. So that's his philosophy. Achintya bheta abheta tattva. So and you can understand this philosophy through love of God. If you have love for Krishna, you can actually see. In love, you understand you are one and different from your beloved. Like two people, they are one in love, but to exchange in love, they have to be separated as two. So it's like one and two simultaneously, inconceivably, kind of like that. So I want to read a little bit from this biography written in 1896. How long ago was that? 125 years ago. August 20th. Sorry?
Maybe you can explain what simultaneously and inconceivably mean.
Yeah, so something is simultaneous. So two things happen at the same time. So that's what simultaneous means. And at the same time, inconceivable means you don't understand them at the same time. Let's say you have a picture of like in psychology, they have this picture of two vases, two flower vases. So you see them either as vases or two faces. You cannot see both them. You can either see faces or vases, but not faces and vases simultaneously. Your mind cannot see both at the same time. So that's what inconceivable means. You can see God is one. Everything is God. God is everything you see is God. It's Him and His energy. And as far as He's concerned, there's just Him. But at the same time, everything else is not God. It's separate from Him. It's different from Him, because God is God. Everything else is part of God, but it's not God at the same time. So it's kind of you can see from God's perspective as everything is God. Everything is absolute, is one. At the same time, you can look from the other end and see how we are separate from God. We are not, but both are true simultaneously. They both are there simultaneously true, but not. You cannot see both at the same time. It's kind of at least not from the not with our present mind, our conditioned mind. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born in Mayapur in the town of Nadia just after the sunset of the evening of the 23rd Phalguna 74 Shakapta, answering to the 18th of February 1486 of the Christian era. The moon was eclipsed at the time of his birth, and the people of Nadia were then engaged, as was usual on such occasions, in bathing in the Bhagirati with loud cheers of Haribol. So the time he was born was interesting. So he was born on a full moon, Purnima. It's actually holy today also. Holy is now the Hindu festival. But it used to be, it happened to be an eclipse, lunar eclipse. So what the Hindus do, lunar eclipses are considered not auspicious. So what they do, they submerge themselves in the Ganga. Everyone goes in the Ganga, in the Ganges, and they chant the name of God to protect themselves from the evil influence of Rahu, or whatever it is, So this was the time when the Lord appeared. He appeared when everyone happened to be chanting His name. So he chose this moment to be born. So his father Jagannath Mishra, a poor Brahmana of the Vedic order, and his mother Sachidevi, a model good woman, both descended from Brahmana stock, originally residing in Sylhet is in Bangladesh. Mahaprabhu was a beautiful child, and the ladies of the town came to see him with presents. His mother's father, Pandit Nilambara Chakravarti, a renowned astrologer, foretold that the child would be a great personage in time, and he therefore gave him the name Vishvambara. So he had a grandfather, his maternal grandfather. He was an astrologer, so he could see that this is a very great personality. So he gave him the name Vishvambara. Vishvambara means he who maintains the universe, the one who sustains the whole universe. Vishvambara. The ladies of the neighborhood styled him Gaura Hari on account of his golden complexion. So he had a very beautiful form, but he also had like a golden skin. So you have this, even in Hindu today, Gaur means like, what do you call it? It's like, it means someone with a very fair complexion. Gaur?
Gora.
Yeah, Gaura, yeah. Like my name too, so. Yeah, I have stories of that, but anyway, it's considered very beautiful in India. You're someone who has like a very fair, kind of yellowish fair complexion. So he was called Gaura Hari because he was so beautiful by the neighboring ladies. And his mother called him Nimai on account of the neem tree near which he was born. So Nimai, Gaura Hari and Vishvambara, these are some of his names. Beautiful as the lad was, everyone heartily loved to see him every day. As he grew up, he became a whimsical and frolicsome lad. So he's very playful, very, like clever boys are usually like that. They play around, they're very, they come up with tricks and, they do nonsense. After his 5th year, he was admitted to a Pathashala school, where he picked up Bengali in a very short time. Most of his contemporary biographers have mentioned certain anecdotes regarding Chaitanya, which are simple records of his early miracles. It is said that when he was an infant, in his mother's arms, he wept continually, and when the neighboring ladies cried Haribol, he used to stop. Thus there was a continuation of the utterance of Haribol in this house, foreshowing the future mission of the hero. It has also been stated that when his mother once gave him sweetmeats to eat, he ate clay instead of the food. His mother asking for the reason, he stated that as every sweetmeat was nothing but clay transformed, he could eat clay as well. His mother, who was the consort of a pandit or a scholar, explained that every article in a special state was adapted to a special use. Earth, while in the state of a jug, could be used as a water pot, but in the state of a brick, such a use was not possible. Clay, therefore, in the form of a sweetmeats, was usable as food, but not clay in its other states. The lad was convinced and admitted his stupidity in eating clay, and agreed to avoid the mistake in the future. So this is very interesting. So what he's saying that, first of all, he noticed that the ladies of the neighbor noticed that when he would cry, he would immediately stop crying when they would chant Krishna's name, Hari Bol or Hare Krishna, like that. So he would actually make it a point to cry so that everyone would continually be chanting Hare Krishna. So that was showing his future mission. His mission was to make everyone chant this name of Krishna. And this particular thing with his mother, he showed through this. He was explaining, he was actually in the mood of Dattatreya. So Dattatreya is one form of Krishna who promoted monism, this monistic philosophy that everything is one and, there's no distinction between this thing and that thing. So he was saying, why can I not eat clay? Because ultimately, all the food comes originally from the earth. It's transformed from vegetables or milk and whatever. Everything is a transformation of mud. So why can't I just eat the mud directly? So then his mother explained the philosophy that, yes, that's true, everything is mud, but it has to take different forms to be used for different purposes. So you cannot use a brick as a jug, or you cannot use a jug as a brick, or you can eat mud and get the same benefit from eating a milk sweet like that. So she basically pointed out the Bailey philosophy is that it's true everything is one, but things are still distinct for different purposes. For variety is there for a reason. Another miraculous act has been related. It is said that a Brahmana on pilgrimage became a guest in his house, cooked his food, and read his grace with meditation on Krishna. In the meantime, the lad came and ate up the cooked rice. The Brahmana, astonished at the lad's act, cooked again at the request of Jagannath Mishra. The lad again ate up the cooked rice while the Brahmana was offering the rice to Krishna with meditation. The Brahmana was persuaded to cook for the third time. This time all the inmates of the house had fallen asleep, and the lad showed himself as Krishna to the traveler and blessed him. The Brahmana was then lost in ecstasy at the appearance of the object of his worship. So this is a very, very popular story of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how there was this great devotee, Brahmana. He was like a traveling mendicant. He came to the house and he cooked food 3 times. Each time he would ask Krishna to come and offer the food. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being Krishna, he came and ate the food directly. And the Brahmana didn't realize this is Krishna himself. So he was upset that this little kid came, and every time he would make an offering to Krishna, he would spoil the offering by eating it. Because we don't, like say, we are cooking in the kitchen, we first offer it to Krishna, and then we can eat the food. So if someone comes and eats the food before you offer it, it spoils the offering. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would do this 3 times. And the 3rd time it happened, everyone was asleep, so he actually showed to the Brahmana that actually he was Krishna, and revealed to him that he did this exact same thing to him when he came as Krishna 5,000 years before. So in his 8th year, he was admitted into the Tola school. Tola is a Bengali word for school, of Gangadas Pandit in Ganganagara, close by the village of Mayapur. In 2 years, he became well versed in Sanskrit grammar and rhetoric. His readings after that were of the nature of self-study in his own house, where he had found all important books belonging to his father. who was a Pandit himself. It appears that he read the Smriti in his own study, and the Nyaya also, in competition with his friends, who were then studying under the celebrated Pandit Raghunath Shiromani. Now, after his 10th year, Chaitanya became a passable scholar in grammar, rhetoric, and the Smriti and Nyaya. It was after this that his elder brother Vishvarupa left his house and accepted the ashram status of a sannyasi, ascetic. Chaitanya, though a very young boy, consoled his parents, saying that he would serve them with a view to please God. Just after that, his father left this world. His mother was exceedingly sorry, and Mahaprabhu, with his usual contented appearance, consoled his widowed mother. So he grew up to be a great scholar. So even when he was very small, he was actually always challenging everyone else to a debate. His schoolmates, even older, grown up scholars around him, he would challenge them to a debate and defeat them. He was so expert in logic that he would establish an argument, establish a point with all arguments, and get everyone to agree to it. Does anyone have anything to say about this? Does anyone agree? They said yes. And then he would defeat that whole conclusion and establish an opposite conclusion, and then everyone would have to accept that conclusion, or that must be the truth, And then when everyone has accepted the opposite conclusion, he would again defeat that conclusion, and again establish the opposite conclusion, all with logic. So this is how, his scholarship was so superhuman that everyone was bewildered. So that was his pastime. So actually, the town where he was living, Navadvip, at that time was considered even today, I've been there, and the people will say this used to be like the Oxford of West Bengal. Like this was the high seat of learning in all of India, even at that time. You have this Mithila and Varanasi and these towns in India that they're great seats of learning in Sanskrit and so on. But just before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared there, it became like a major educational center. So thousands of scholars used to go there to study. Young boys from priestly scholarly families used to go there and study. So that was the environment he was in. He was in an environment of great scholasticism. It was at the age of 14 or 15 that Mahaprabhu was married to Lakshmi Devi, the daughter of Vallabhacharya, also of Nadia. He was at this age considered one of the best scholars of Nadia, the renowned seat of Nyaya philosophy and Sanskrit learning. Not to speak of the Smarta Pandits, the Nyayikas were all afraid of confronting him in a literary discussion. Being a married man, he went to eastern Bengal on the banks of the Patna for acquirement of wealth, where he displayed his learning and obtained a good sum of money. So when he got married very young, that was his custom of those days, and then he had actually become a great scholar. So he went to East Bengal, and that now is called Bangladesh. It was the same state at that time, and for a few months he was teaching. He trained like a whole group of students in a few months to be great scholars, and he was given a lot of dakshin, a lot of wealth, that's the custom when you graduate, you give your teacher a guru dakshin, like a parting gift. So he brought he came back after a few months with a lot of wealth. It was this time that he preached Vaishnavism at intervals. After teaching him the principles of Vaishnavism, he ordered Tapan Mishra to go to live in Benares or Varanasi. During his residence in eastern Bengal, his wife Lakshmi Devi left this world from the effect of a snake bite. So his wife actually died when he was away. So some say she died of a snake bite, some say she died of separation from him. On returning home, can you give me some water, buddy? So and then someone can just tell me the green glass. Darius is on the job. Oh, you're being on. Thank you. Is everyone with me? It's a little bit, the English here is a little bit, it's very, very good English actually, but it's not easy for people whose English is not their first language. Can anyone follow more or less what I'm saying here? It's like I'm having a great time, but I hope you guys are having a great time. Huh?
Perfect English.
Okay, thank you. On returning home, he found his mother in a mourning state. Mourning meaning he's lamenting the loss of her daughter-in-law. He consoled her with a lecture on the uncertainty of human affairs. It was at his mother's request that he married Vishnupriya, the daughter of Raja Pandit Sanatana Mishra. His comrades joined him on his return from pravasa or sojourn. It's so funny how these words like inmates and comrades, they're at that time we didn't have any, they were used like.
So Vishnupriya was the name of the
second wife
of
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So first is Lakshmi Priya, she passed away, and then Vishnu Priya. So he had these two wives.
So now I understand my sister's name. She's Vishnupriya.
Who? Your sister's name, yeah. Your sister's name is Vishnu Priya?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't know that because my father gave her name from some guru, but I don't know which guru she gave.
Okay.
My father told me that it is some guru from Bengal, and his wife's name was Vishnupriya. That's why my sister was giving.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I
He
didn't
told
know.
us as one, yeah. So that was his second wife, yeah. She was very, very great, great personality actually. He was now so renowned, famous, that he was considered to be the best pandit in Nadia. Keshava Mishra of Kashmir, who had called himself the great Digvijay, world conqueror. So Digvijay means, Dig means every direction and Vijay means conqueror. So he had gone through every direction and conquered challenged every great scholar to debate and conquered them. So he came to this town which was supposed to be this high seat of study of logic and Sanskrit. You have to understand you have different universities that specialize in certain departments. If you want to really study archaeology, then you would maybe find the university that has the best department in archaeology. So this Nadia, like he explained, was specifically teaching logic, and Sanskrit. So this is why when this world-conquering scholar came there, they really had to do everything to not lose their reputation as being the high seat of logic. Because when scholars argue, they're mainly arguing on a point of logic. Logic is their main tool of debate, just like today. He came to Nadia with a view to debate the panditas of that place. Afraid of the so-called conquering pandit, the professors of Nadia left their town on the pretense of invitation. So they said they had some excuse they didn't be the one to be defeated in debate by this visiting scholar. Keshava, the scholar, met Mahaprabhu at the Parakona Ghat in Mayapur. So basically Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was teaching his students, and this Pandit, he just arrived in Mayapur, he came to the river, and he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sitting there on the river bank. So, and they started talking. There was kind of it was an informally arranged debate. And after a very short discussion with him, he got defeated by the boy, and mortification obliged him to decamp, to leave. Nima Pandit was now the most important Pandit of the times. So basically this was a Pandit that had gone all over India and defeated everyone in debate. And he comes to Mayapur, and he meets Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they have a little discussion, and he's just a teenager, he's like 16 years old or something, and he defeats him, It's a very interesting story. It's a longer story, but that was enough to defeat him, and he left that place. And this is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became actually the most renowned scholar of that time in all of India. It was at the age of 16 or 17 that he traveled to Gaya with a host of his students, and there he took his spiritual initiation from Ishvara Puri, a Vaishnava sannyasi and a disciple of the renowned Madhavendra Puri. So this is actually in the line of Madhvacharya, these two sannyasis, Madhavendra Puri and Ishvara Puri. Upon his return to Nadia, Nimad Pandit returned religious preacher, and his religious nature became so strongly represented that Advaita Prabhu, Srivas and others who had before the birth of Chaitanya already accepted the Vaishnava faith were astonished at the change in the young man. He was no more a contending Nyayaka or a logician, a wrangling smarta, and a criticizing rhetorician. So suddenly he comes back, and before he was this very arrogant scholar. He used to all the time challenge everyone to debate, and all he would do is drag people into arguments, to show his superiority. And suddenly he comes back after being initiated into this Vaishnava line as the most humble lover of Krishna. So he has given up his pride, his arrogance, his apparent pride and arrogance, and now he has become this very humble Vaishnava, devotee of Krishna. He swooned at the name of Krishna. Swoon means he would almost faint. He would lose his balance, and behaved as an inspired man under the influence of his religious sentiment. It has been described by Murari Gupta, an eyewitness, that he showed his heavenly powers in the house of Srivas Pandit in the presence of hundreds of his followers, who were mostly well-read scholars. So this was a town of scholars. So his followers were all very, very well-versed, very highly educated people. So they were all, participating in this movement of chanting and realizing love for Krishna through this chanting. It was at this time that he opened a nocturnal school of kirtan in the compound of Srivas Pandit with his sincere followers. There he preached, there he sang, there he danced, and there he expressed all sorts of religious feelings. Nityananda Prabhu, who was then a preacher of Vaishnavism and who had completed his travels all over India, joined him at that time. In fact, a host of Pandita preachers of Vaishnavism, all sincere at heart, came and joined him from different parts of Bengal. Nadia now became the regular seat of a host of Vaishnava acharyas, whose mission it was to spiritualize mankind with the highest influence of the Vaishnava creed. So he would all night he would just do kirtan, and he would just do kirtan and taste different states of love of Krishna at the house of one of his associates, Srivas Pandit. And then gradually all these different great devotees from all over Bengal, they came and joined him in Mayapur, in Nadia, and they, in turn, this is how this mission of preaching, basically this mission of spreading this Krishna consciousness, that's how it became established. When they all came together, and then they decided, now we should give this process, this love for Krishna through this chanting. Now it's time to give it to the rest of mankind. The first mandate that he issued to Prabhu Nityananda and Haridas was this: go, friend, go through the streets of the town, meet every man at his door, and ask him to sing the names of Hari with a holy light, and then come and report to me every evening the results of your preaching. Thus ordered he that two preachers went out and met Jaga and Madhai, the two most abominable characters of Nadia. These two insulted the preachers on hearing Mahaprabhu's mandate, but were soon converted by the influence of bhakti, inculcated by the Lord. So these actually, Jaga and Madhai, were the most sinful. They were from good families, but had fallen into very, very degraded life. They were drunkards, they were woman hunters, they were murderers, they were every bad thing you can think of, and what you can't even think of, they had done. Not once, but hundreds of times, or thousands of times. And so what happened is that Nityananda and Haridas, they were ordered to go and tell everyone about Krishna, tell everyone to chant Hare Krishna, and Nityananda would not leave these people out even. So they originally became angered and even attacked Nityananda, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda actually converted them into Vaishnavism. So the point here is that Dina hina datta chilo harina me uttarilo tara sakshi jagai madhai, that this holy name is actually meant to deliver all of us from our, doesn't matter how sinful we may consider ourselves, how fallen, how unworthy we are. This chanting, this path is open to us. We can still take it up and become perfect. Sometimes we hear people speak like that, I've lived a life of sin, It's a nice sentiment actually, but no one is barred from this path. The people of Nadia were now surprised. They said, Nima Pandit is not only a gigantic genius, but is certainly a missionary from God Almighty. From this time, his 23rd year, on to his 33rd, Mahaprabhu preached his principle not only in Nadia, but in all the important towns and villages around his city. In the houses of his followers, he showed miracles, taught the esoteric principles of bhakti, and sang his Sankirtan with other bhaktas. His followers in the town of Nadia commenced to sing the holy name of Hari in the streets and bazaars. This created a sensation and roused different feelings in different quarters. The bhaktas were highly pleased. The Smarta Brahmanas became jealous of Nimai Pandit's success and complained to Chand Kazi against the caricature of Chaitanya, claiming it was un-Hindu. The Kazi is actually the Muslim magistrate. So basically, Bengal was actually ruled by Nawab Hussain Shah at that time. So it was actually the most powerful kingdom of India at that time, Bengal. In case you didn't know, India was a very, very opulent country, and this was the most powerful kingdom of the time. So this was part of that Muslim kingdom, but mostly inhabited by Hindus, of course. And that particular area was controlled by a Muslim magistrate called the Qazi. So his name was Chand Kazi. The Qazi came to Shivas Pandit's house and broke a mridanga drum, like a drum here, which we have, and declared that unless Nimai Pandit ceases to make noise about his queer religion, he would be obliged to enforce Mohammedanism on him and his followers. This was brought to Mahaprabhu's notice. He ordered the town people to appear in the evening, each with a torch in his hand. This they did, and Nimai marched out with his Sankirtan divided into 14 groups. So basically what he did, so first the Chand Kazi came to the house, broke the drum and said, if you continue doing this publicly, we will convert you to Muhammadan, we will punish you. So
What's Muhammadan?
Huh?
What is Muhammadan?
Muslim? Muhammadan? You know what Muslim? Yeah, there's another Muslim is Muhammadan, the one who follows Muhammad. So
Musulman also.
Musliman, yeah. In India especially, they have a lot of different terms for this.
Basically Musulman.
Yeah. So what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, he did like Gandhi, he did this civil disobedience movement. So he took, instead of following the instruction, he actually got everyone to disobey the order and did even more. He told all the townspeople, let's go on the street and do a very massive kirtan, public kirtan. And they brought this kirtan all to the house of the Qazi. On his arrival at Qazi's house, he held a long conversation with the Qazi and in the end communicated into his heart his Vaishnava influence by touching his body. The Qazi then wept and admitted that he had felt a keen spiritual influence which had cleared up his doubts and produced in him a religious sentiment which gave him the highest ecstasy. The Qazi then joined the Sankirtan party. The world was astonished at the spiritual power of the great Lord, and hundreds of heretics converted and joined the banner of Vishwambara after this affair. So imagine that, the Muslim magistrate, he actually joined in the kirtan. Instead of, he was going to stop it, and he actually became converted friends. So till this day, his descendants still live in this town, and he's declared that neither me nor any of my descendants will ever obstruct this Sankirtan movement. So his tomb is there you can go to his tomb. He's a holy man, of course, and to this day his descendants have not been, they have been favorable to this chanting of Hare Krishna. It was after this that some of the jealous and low-minded Brahmana of Kulya picked a quarrel with Mahaprabhu and collected a party to oppose him. Nima Pandit was naturally a soft-hearted person, though strong in his principles. He declared that party feelings and sectarianism were the two great enemies of progress, and he saw that as long as he should continue to be an inhabitant of Nadia belonging to a certain family, his mission would not meet with complete success. He then resolved to be a citizen of the world by cutting off his connections with his particular family, caste and creed, and with this resolution he embraced the position of a sannyasi at Katwa under the guidance of Keshava Bharati of that town. In the 24th year of his life, his mother and his wife wept bitterly for his separation. But our hero, though soft in heart, was strong in person in his principles. He left this little world in his house for the unlimited spiritual world of Krishna with man in general. This is very significant. So what happened is that he was still a young man, and there was a misunderstanding between his teaching, his ecstasy, and the local pandits. So there was some agitation among the students, and he realized that as long as he remains like a man of the town with the family and all that, people will not accept his message. But if he becomes a man of the world, he becomes a renounced sannyasi or a monk. Then a person who is a monk, he is everyone's son. Everyone is his family. You notice that, right? If someone monk comes to your house, you can treat him like your own son. He's like that. So he decided to make all of mankind his family. So that's actually, there's a saying like that. No one can become a big preacher, a world preacher, unless he takes sannyas, unless he becomes a renounced person. So if you have a family and a wife and kids and all that, it's difficult to travel non-stop around the world and preach God's message. So like Jesus, he was like that. He was a person who didn't have a family. He would just travel like a sannyasi and go from town to town and convert people to his faith, to his path of God consciousness. So after his sannyas, he was induced to visit the house of Advaita Acharya in Shantipura. Advaita managed to invite all Mahaprabhu's friends and admirers from Nadia and brought Sachi Devi, his mom, to see her son. Both pleasure and pain invaded her heart when she saw her son in the attire of a sannyasi. As a sannyasi, Krishna Chaitanya put on nothing but a kopina and a bahirvasha, outer covering. His head was without hair, and his hands wore a danda stick and a kamandalu, a hermit's water pot. So this is the sannyasis, they wear like a stick and a water pot. The holy son fell at the feet of his beloved mother and said, "Mother, this body is yours, and I must obey your orders. Permit me to go to Vrindavan for my spiritual attainments." The mother, in consultation with Advaita and others, asked her son to reside in Puri, Jagannath Puri, the town of Jagannath, so that she might obtain news of him now and then. Mahaprabhu agreed to that proposition, and in a few days left Shantipura for Orissa. So Jagannath Puri is this holy place on the shore of India. So in India you have these char dhams, these four holy places. So on the east side, Jagannath Puri is this holy town. So it's a very holy place. All the different religious schools of India, they all have matas or like monasteries or temples.
Shankaracharya created these 4 monasteries on the 4 sides of the India. So, and the other thing is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was always although he took sannyas, he became a monk, he was always very obedient to his mother. He was very devoted to his mother his whole life. So in obedience to his mother, he is permanently resided in Puri. But he did some traveling, of course, but because his mother ordered him to stay there, he stayed there. So this is actually interesting. I was just thinking about it today. Even Shankaracharya, who was also another great sannyasi, he was just mentioned Shankaracharya, he was also very devoted to his mother. So when his mother died, he had been preaching. He took sannyas at a very young age. He became a monk, a traveling monk, very young. He was only like 8 or 10 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very young.
and he was preaching this. He was basically, he drove Buddhism out of India by establishing like a philosophy similar to Buddhism but based on the Vedas, you know, in this Vedanta. So especially his brand of philosophy says that this world is false. Everything is illusion. Family is false, like that. But still, when he finally came back to his home village, his mother had just passed away. So what he did was, since she only had him as a son. So he took his clothes of a monk off. He put on a clothes of a house of a family man, and he performed the final rites to his mother. You know, out of respect for his mother, Shankaracharya. So my point is here that both him and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are said to be the foremost of renunciate or sannyasi, very, very exemplary in their renunciation, in their being monks. But this did not, when it came to being devoted to their mother, that actually transcended their being monks and being, so this is, so anyway, it makes a point of the Vedic culture is, the devotion to a mother is so high, it actually transcends every other consideration.
Shankaracharya died very young after his mother died. He
Yeah.
was just 32 years old.
Yeah. The Vyakaras have described the journey of Krishna Chaitanya so when he took sannyas, he was given the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya. That's his sannyas name.
So what name they know him now?
We call him by Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. We usually call him by that name, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So he had the name in his youth as Nimai or Vishwambar or Gaurahari, like that. But when he took sannyas, he got the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So Chaitanya is, and something interesting is coming up to Quran. His biographers have described the journey of Sri Krishna Chaitanya from Shantipura to Puri in great detail. He traveled along the side of the Bhagirathi, the Ganges, as far as Chatra Bhoka, situated now in Thana Mathurapura, Diamond Harbour, 24 Paragana. These are all different districts in Bengal. There he took a boat and went as far as Prayag Ghat in the Midnapur district. Thence he walked through Balashore and Chakatak to Puri, seeing the temple of Bhuvaneshwara on his way. Upon his arrival at Puri, he saw Jagannath in a temple and recited with Sarvabhauma at the request of the latter. Sarvabhauma was a gigantic pandit of the day. His reading knew no bounds. He was the best Nyayika of the times and was known as the most erudite scholar in the Vedanta philosophy of the school of Shankaracharya. He was born in Nadia, Vijayanagar, and taught innumerable peoples in the Nyaya philosophy in his tola there. So basically, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he's actually one who established Nadia as the great seat of learning. Actually, he who did it. But later on, he moved to Puri. He had left for Puri some time before the birth of Nimai Pandit. His brother-in-law, Gopinath Mishra, introduced our new sannyasi to Sarvabhauma, who was astonished at his personal beauty and feared that it would be difficult for the young man to maintain sannyas dharma during the long run of his life. So he was 24 years old. He was like the most beautiful person you can ever find. So for a very, very beautiful man, it's not easy to be renounced. I don't know if you're a man, but it's very hard to resist the glances of beautiful women when they see you and they smile at you, and it's very, very difficult for someone to remain unmoved, especially a young man. Young men are full of passion, So he was like, this Sarvabhauma, being an elder, seeing this young sannyasi, so beautiful, taking sannyas at some young age. Usually people take sannyas when they're elderly. He was thinking, unless I prepare him, he will not be able to stay a renunciate. So on this point, Gopinath and Sarvabhauma had a lot of hot discussion. Sarvabhauma then requested Mahaprabhu to hear his recitation
of the Vedanta Sutras, which the latter tactily submitted. Chaitanya heard with silence that what the great Sarvabhauma uttered with gravity for 7 days, at the end of which the latter says, Krishna Chaitanya, I think you do not understand the Vedanta, as you do not say anything after hearing my recitation and explanation. So basically what he was doing, he was teaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the Vedanta Sutra, which is the philosophical conclusion of all the Vedas, using the commentary of Shankaracharya. So very, very difficult subject. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat there for 7 days and didn't make a comment. He sat there and listened, didn't say one word. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya didn't understand, didn't know. Are you understanding or do you not understand? You don't ask any questions, you don't make any comments, you don't make any arguments like that. The reply of Chaitanya was that he understood the Shastras very well, but could not make out what Shankaracharya meant by his commentaries. Astonished at this, Sarvabhauma said, how is it that you understand the meaning of the Shastras, but do not understand the commentaries, which explain the Shastras? You understand that? So he understands the Shastra. He's explaining a Vedanta Sutra, very, very difficult to understand Shastra. So he understands the original Shastra, but then he gives an explanation. The explanation didn't make any sense. So he didn't say, I understand what you're trying to. I understand the Shastra, the book, the original book, but the explanation doesn't make sense. Just like if I read the Gita, just the text, you understand every verse perfectly, and then I tried to explain the Bhagavad Gita, and you said, I understand the Gita, but your explanation doesn't make any sense. Why are you confusing me? No. So that's basically what he said to him. Mahaprabhu thereupon explained all the sutras in his own way without touching the pantheistic commentary of Shankara. So Shankaracharya is actually a pantheist because he said everything is God. He doesn't distinguish God being a separate identity or beyond this world. So this is called pantheism. It's not theism. So it's a non-theistic. It's in one sense atheistic explanation because you don't give God a separate. He's not transcendent and immanent at the same time. The keen understanding of Sarvabhauma saw the truth, beauty, and harmony of the argument and the explanations given by Chaitanya, and obliged him to utter that it was the first time he had found one who could explain the Brahma Sutras in such a simple manner. He also admitted that the commentaries of Shankara never gave such natural explanation of the Vedanta Sutras as those he had obtained from Mahaprabhu. Sarvabhauma then submitted himself as an advocate and follower. In a few days he turned out to be one of the best Vaishnavas of the time. When reports of this came out, the whole of Orissa sang the praise of Krishna Chaitanya, and hundreds came to him and became his followers. In the meantime, Mahaprabhu thought of visiting southern India, and he started with one Krishnadas Brahmana for his journey. So he had basically converted the greatest scholar of the Shankara school to his philosophy, to his path. And then shortly after he went on a tour of South India and also Maharashtra. His biographers have given us detail of the journey. He first went to Kurmakshetra, and I try to not. He traveled through South India. He preached Vaishnavism. He performed many miracles. He stayed in a place called Sri Rangam during the rainy season, and he converted a family there to his brand of Vaishnavism. Then he went to Cape Comer, this is Kanyakumari, and then he returned to Puri in 2 years by Pandharpur on the Bhima river. In this latter place he spiritualized one Tukarama, who became from that time a religious preacher himself. This fact has been admitted in his Abhangas, which have been collected by a volume by Mr. Satyendranath Tagore of the Bombay Civil Service. So there's actually Tukaram, which you've heard of, right? Tukaram, yeah. So in his Abhangas, he actually says that he talks about a Chaitanya who came and enlightened him. He got his
So he was the guru of Tukaram.
Yeah. He spiritualized Tukaram. So Tukaram actually, if you notice, Tukaram's movement is very similar to Mahaprabhu's movement, because they also chant the name of Ram, Krishna, Hari like that, and they also they do processions with the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. So, yeah. So he became Tukaram is a very famous.
He was very well-known saint in my state.
Yeah. So I don't want to explain more. It has become a long enough lecture for now, but you're gonna get the gist. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did travel twice. Again, he traveled through Varanasi, to Vrindavan through Varanasi, and he converted the greatest of the greatest acharya of the Shankara line there. He was a sannyasi, Prakashananda. He also preached to him. He also converted him to his brand of Vedanta, this Vaishnava Vedanta. And he stayed in this world for only 48 years, and then he left this world after 48 years from Puri. So anyway, this is, if you want to read this, I can tell you the link. You can read the whole story. It's very nice. It's a very beautiful English. It's written a long time ago, but in such excellent English, and it gives a very nice condensed summary of this teaching. It's written for Westerners. This particular biography is written for a non-Indian crowd. So
can you send me the link?
Yeah, send the link. It's very nice. Yeah.
Are you going to send in Gmail or in WhatsApp?
Whichever you choose.
WhatsApp is better.
Yeah, no, everyone prefers WhatsApp. It's like instantly.
Maybe we can summarize a little bit and say something.
Yes, in summary, in conclusion,
from
like
your
you say.
mind
Yeah.
about it.
What's your name again?
Mahesh, M-A-H.
Mahesh, yes. There you have it. So, just in conclusion, so this is just to give an idea of the lifespan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he appeared in 1986 on 18 February, 1486, 18 February. He stayed for 48 years, and in this time he established very firmly this movement of love for Krishna, both in terms of practice, in terms of chanting. The process is very, very simple. We just have to chant his name with humility and faith, and we will get love of Krishna. But if you are a great scholar, a great philosopher, the philosophy is also there. Any intelligent scholar can actually study this philosophy and see it is the most sublime of all philosophies in the history of Indian philosophies. So this is why we have, in our movement, you see these two things. We have a lot of books in our movement. We have this Bhagavad Gita, we have so many volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, so many books we have to explain our philosophy. But also, if you come to our programs, mostly we just chant and we eat prasadam and we dance. So the process itself is very simple and very pleasurable. So there's a song actually describing this particular incarnation of Krishna, that Parama Karuna Bahu Dvijana Nitai Gora Chanda, that these two lords, Chaitanya and Nityananda, we talked about him a month ago, they are the most merciful, Parama Karuna, they are the most merciful of incarnations. Why are they most merciful of incarnations? Because Krishna, he came 5,000 years ago, he spoke this Bhagavad Gita, and he explained to us, please surrender to me, and then you will come to me. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't give any such, he didn't say surrender to me, he just said, just chant Hare Krishna. So, basically his is a Saba Avatara, Sara Shiromani. Sara means essence, and Shiromani means like the crest jewel, the crown jewel. Shiromani. So, of all avatars of Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the essence, or the crest jewel, because his path, Kevala Ananda Kanda, his path, is Kevala Ananda, is simply joyful, simply blissful. So, if you simply come here, or any of our temples, or any of our groups, and you just
chant this Hare Krishna and dance happily and take prasadam and associate with the devotees. That's all you have to do. That's you have completely practiced this process of self-realization. In other incarnations, in other paths, you have to do so much. You have to do yoga. You have to go to the forest and meditate for hundreds of years, or decades or 100 years. You can extend your life by yogic practice, and then maybe you will have a glimpse of God in your heart. Let's say, or you have to surrender. You have to give up the world, like Shankaracharya would say. First take sannyas, then we can talk. You cannot even follow his path without taking sannyas, renouncing the world. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has simply given us, he has just given us this chanting. You just chant, and you accept Krishna in your heart, and you chant his name, and accept food offered to Krishna, and your life will be perfect. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So our process is very simple, very joyful, very happy, and at the same time we have these books and 100 volumes of these to back up our process of this very simple process. So everything we have something for everyone. If you're a very simple and practical person, just chant. And if you're very intellectual and philosophical and scholarly, then you can also study. So we have something for everyone. So any questions, comments? My mother is saying.
Ertu að fara að segja amen, Iskcon?
Sorry?
Ertu að fara að segja amen?
Já, í nafni Guð Föðurs, Sonar og Heilags Anda, amen.
Þetta minnir við þegar amma þið var í kirkjunni, þegar pappina var að tala.
Það var í Gunna.
Það var Gunnar sem sagði, hver að pappi ekki að segja amen?
My great grandfather was a very great preacher in Iceland. He was very famous. Actually, so he would give these long lectures, and all the adults, all the the grown-ups would be spellbound listening to him, for his 1 hour sermon. But then his young daughter, she was being a child, she would get tired, and she would always be asking her sister, my grandmother, when is he going to say amen? When is he going to say amen? So, yeah. So my mother was the same way. She could not follow my lecture so easily, so she's asking the same question. When am I going to say amen?
She was waiting, maybe she was getting bored, so she was waiting to you to say amen.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Same thing.
Þetta var flott hjá þér.
Okay. Any questions, comments? No, everyone is happy.
Overload.
Overloads, yes. Hare Krishna.
When he's the reason we're chanting Hare Krishna today. He's the ultimate reason.
Yeah, this actually the ability, you may wonder why so many people from all different backgrounds have become such strict followers of this Vedic culture. It's only because of him. It's really that potency, that mercy that it comes from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
See this Tukaram, he died about the same time as.
I think he came a little. I think he was 100 years after.
What?
I think he was a little after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he was.
No, he was Shivaji's time. Like he was in 1660, 1640.
Okay.
The time of Shivaji, King Shivaji.
Yeah.
And now still his shoes.
Yeah.
They are kept in my city and.
In Pandharpur.
In Pune, near Pune, Alandi. It's called Alandi.
Okay.
Now they are just symbolic, not real shoes.
Okay.
But they put there, and thousands of people walk from Alandi, which is 17 kilometers from my city, to Pandharpur, which is 150 kilometers, without any shoes. Every year, thousands and thousands of people just walk with his part. They put his shoes on shoulder, and also Santa Jnaneshwar. There was Jnaneshwar in 13th century. Both it's called Palki.
Okay.
Take it.
And they chant like Ram Krishna Hare, they chant the name.
No, say just Shriram Jai Jai Ram, Shriram Jai Jai Ram. I don't know, I never went there. Maybe Ram Krishna or whatever. But Tukaram was devotee of Rama and Krishna, both. He used to sing Ram Krishna, Ram Krishna, Ram Krishna.
Yeah, also both.
Yeah. So, and he was offered, one day the king Shivaji came to him and he said, you are very devotee of God. So And I heard that you are very poor, so what do you want? And he said that whatever God gave me is enough for me. And actually he was very poor. And he refused to take anything from the king. He said, no, I don't want anything. And he was so poor that his wife and babies died because of there was no rain and there was no food. So they died because of that.
Okay.
And then he said, it is just God's wish. Actually, he was not talking about Krishna or Rama. He was talking about Pandari. That is the incarnation of Krishna.
Yeah.
So, he was a devotee of Pandari. That is Pandharpur. Pandari.
Vittal.
Yeah, Vittal.
Vittal.
That's Krishna.
And how, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How was before Prabhupada, how was the Krishna movement before Prabhupada? Because all what we have is written by Prabhupada. And how was it before he did this?
Yeah, so it was, so in this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just a history briefly, so he had a few disciples, the 6 Goswamis. He had many students, disciples, but
Disciples are teachers.
yeah, he's taught his teaching. So about 100 years after his experience, there was actually a very big movement in Bengal, especially in Bengal and Orissa.
After Prabhupada died.
No, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu died. I'm trying to go. I went back 500 years. So
15th century.
yeah, first 15th century, 16th,
You use dates?
yeah, 16th and 17th century. There was a lot of 1600s and 1700s. There was a big movement, and then it died down for like 100 years or so.
Yeah.
And then again,
Prabhupada, he lifted.
yeah, and then again, then his Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who wrote this, the man who wrote this summary that I read, he actually revived this again in the modern time. So what happened is that he was, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement was preached in the medieval era. Was still the medieval era. He started in that. So what Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he revived it in the British era. That's when the kind of the modern time started with the Industrial Revolution. So he actually preached this. He brought this movement to life in this modern era, where we have the technology, you have this what do you call it, globalism. Globalism had started, and English had become like the mainstream language, like that. And then his son, he established a very, very big movement in India. He was a sannyasi, and he established the 64 matas all over India.
Yeah.
And he was the guru of Prabhupada, our founder. And he asked Prabhupada to preach this message in the English language, because he was preaching mainly in India, so he had to mostly preach through Indian languages. But he wanted this to be preached in the English language, meaning internationally. So before Prabhupada, there was this big movement in India that was very big in the early part of the 20th century, 1910 till 1940, something like that. Around that time, it was very big. And then that also became a little bit like cooled down. And then Prabhupada basically took those same teachings and spread them all over the world as Iskcon. And he came back to India. So Iskcon is actually, in India, Iskcon is big in a lot of places, but in India it's so big, it's just like, it's actually, I can't even get my head around how big Iskcon is in India now. It's most states have big temples and so on. So,
in 15th or 16th century, 15 and 16, that time Muslim rule was there.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult for them to chant very openly. When British came, they say that you pay our taxes and you do whatever you want.
Yeah, actually this is a good point. So it's because the time when he was there and the following his, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there and following him, Emperor Akbar was in India. So he was actually very, very...
He was soft.
He was very soft. He was very he wanted to have a harmony between the Muslims and the Hindus, like that. He was like a real father of...
He was trying to create a new religion with 80% Hindu religion and 20% Muslim religion.
Yeah.
But it didn't succeed.
So what happened is that there was like a golden era until Aurangzeb came. So Aurangzeb was like his grandson, right?
No, yeah, even Akbar's son Jahangir, he was very ruthless Muslim.
Okay.
But Shah Jahan, his son was mild.
Yeah, man.
And Shah Jahan's son, with Hindu wife, he became all this Aurangzeb.
Aurangzeb, okay.
Yeah, so Aurangzeb was this very, very. You see, if Aurangzeb hadn't been there, if you go to India today, you would see maybe 10 times more Hindu temples and great monuments. He basically does almost erased India to the ground. He was so bad.
Yeah, but and my state revolted against him. That is the reason India is still Hindu country.
Yeah.
Because Shivaji revolted it.
Yeah, that's true. So that's anyway. It's the history of India. But anyway, there was this golden era for about 200 years, from the 1500s to 1700s. Then there was a the movement became more undercover. Then it came up again in the late 1800s, the 1900s. So Prabhupada, before Prabhupada, this movement had become quite big in India, but it also had become kind of a little bit slowed down.
So what time he went to America?
Yeah, he studied in America. He went to New York.
Which year?
1996. 1966, sorry.
1969.
66. Yeah, he established Iskcon in 66. In just 5 years or so, he spread all over the world.
Yeah.
And the last 5 years, he focused mostly in India, establishing in India, because he knew India had the best potential because its culture is there. So, but he was very, very. Prabhupada really wanted there to be a center in every country, you know. So this is why I'm here, you know, because Prabhupada wants it to be here. So.
Yeah, and it will be slowly grow.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for.
Everything takes time.
Do I need help?
Do you need help?
No.
Just.
Are we gonna
Yes.
kirtan or something?
Yeah. What should we do? Should we do japa or just kirtan? What do you want to do? You want to do the?
Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Japa.
Everyone likes the japa. Yeah. People love it, meditation. So.
Okay, meditation, but no.
But your mom is gonna be not happy. Later.
Shall we just do
really?
kirtan?
Yeah. Or Japa lika. Small later.
Can you explain the difference between the two? People might be
Should we
thinking-
chant on the beats or should we just sing? I'm asking because it's like a special day. My mother is here.
So
Yeah, we just sing.
ask her interest. What she want to do.
She doesn't know how to do the meditation.
So singing is good, I think.
Okay.
Whatever.
Or Japa lika. And how is Muslims
Okay, let's chant together 10 times.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Ho, Hare